Hey video team, let's talk about camera 1 specifically and kind of the main components and how you'll be setting it up and packing it down each Sunday. So obviously we have a brand new camera body. It's the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K with a Sigma 70-200 lens, some tilter, wireless, zoom and focus controls that are controlled with the handles down here and the servos up here. And then we've got our regular display monitor here where we can be focusing and looking at this monitor without having to reach up to this one. So that's kind of the large components, right? And the same tripod that we've always used. These tripods are good and they're actually very, very good. And they're still perfectly serviceable. So there was no reason to upgrade this at this point. So why don't we have a look at how you will boot up in the morning. So you arrive at 6 a.m. or 2:45 p.m. Depending on which service you're on. What are the things that you do first? First of all, we'll switch on the camera. Up the top, there's a physical switch and you'll switch that on. The camera will turn on, and if the lens cap is on, you'll also want to remove that. So that's going to get the camera booting, and it's very, very quick. And it should just load with all of the correct settings. So those important settings are f2.8 aperture, 300K white balance for now. We may tweak that, but we're going to start at 3K. Shutter speed 1/60. And then we can adjust ISO depending on the light level in the room. Obviously, as you increase ISO, you do incorporate more grainy textures into low light scenarios. So we want to keep the ISO as low as we can while still getting the exposure that we want. We've got some options there. Obviously, if you think about the exposure triangle, if you're familiar with that, we can adjust any one of those 3 parameters to get the exposure that we require. If you don't know what I mean by the exposure triangle, have a look in the wiki. You'll find an article in there in the basics of video component about basics of exposure. And that video will run you through what the exposure triangle is and how our ISO, shutter speed, and aperture relate to each other in providing a good exposure. So the next thing is, how do we get control of the lens? Well, right now, these servos are connected to this V-Lock battery. This is not the final solution. I'm actually purchasing a method so that we can get these hard powered rather than having to run off battery. The problem with running off battery is every time these servos power down, the focus specifically needs to be recalibrated. I won't go into the detail of how to do that calibration in this one. I'll run you through that as it comes time when you're actually rostered. It is a little bit fiddly and a little bit complex for this type of video. For now, I've got it plugged into a battery. It's securely mounted to the tripod, and I can power on with the top button here. You'll see this front one, which is controlling zoom, it lights up white. This one, which is controlling focus, lights up red. That indicates that you need to calibrate this one. That's the control side of it. And how do we actually input into that? Well, we use these 2 handles here. On the very front, you'll find 2 record buttons. They also act as power buttons, so you'll hold them for a quick second. They'll boot up, connect to the servos wirelessly, and we will gain control of zoom and focus. On the right-hand side, we have zoom. That is set to use the joystick that's on the lower side of this handle. So you push forward to move forward in your zoom, you push back to bring it out wider. This handle, once it's calibrated, will use the scroll wheel at the front here, and that will push, as you push forward, that will push your focus point forward. As you pull it back, that will pull your focus point back. So then our screen is exactly the same as before. We'll want to turn that on. We can turn on focus peaking once it's switched on here. And obviously we all know what that does. That'll allow us to see what's in focus and what's out of focus. Once you're there, you're basically set up ready to go. We've got HDMI out of this camera body here and hard power into it. So the HDMI is actually going to a decimator, which is doing no scaling, but it is splitting our outputs into an HDMI return for this screen and a SDI feed for the video system. Obviously, like I said in the video system upgrades, we're in 2997 or 30 FPS video, and this camera is set to 2997. So that's kind of the boot up of this new camera rig. Operating practically, it's effectively the same, right? It's the same tripod, so you'll want to unlock your pan and tilt, set your tensions on both of those attributes as well, just like you previously have. Find your tension points, and then you're pretty well ready to go. You've got your right hand on zoom, your left hand on focus, and you can look down here and pull into wherever you want to on stage, and find the focus point, and off you go. Okay, so then shutting down, what do we do? Well, we lock off our tripod, we can turn off the screen, we can switch off the camera, then put the lens cap back on. Then these servos, you only need to switch off one. You'll see that they are connected to each other. So you just hold down the power button for about 5 seconds until this first one switches off. There we go. Then these handles, a similar thing. It's about 3 seconds for these, but both of the handles you'll see switch off, and we're packed away. Now, or we're shut down at least. We're not packed away yet. These operate on batteries. So you need to take these batteries, charge them in the video room in the dock that is for this purpose. Take off your V-Lock battery, charge it in the video room as well. I'll show you where to do that. And we're away. That's the amount of pack up that you'll need to do on a regular Sunday. The main thing is charging these batteries ready for the ready for the 5 p.m. service, or ready for any use that we need in the week. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a rundown. If you've got questions, let me know. I'll be here on Sunday for our first week running with these as well. Ben's also around, he's also across this. So if you've got questions, reach out. I'm really, really excited. These cameras are incredible, and I'm thrilled that we have the privilege to actually be able to implement them and start to use them. They've been sitting in my office for a long time. So I can't wait to kind of see some of the shots that we'll be able to get with them. All right, see ya.